Kluszewski rests that bat on the shoulder as Brewer looks in to get the sign from Yogi Berra. Kluszewski sends a fly ball near the left field line. Williams giving it a run. It lands in the left field corner, goes up against the bullpen fence in deep left field. Kluszewski goes in a second standing up. For the outfield.
He led the National League in home runs. He finished second in the most valuable player vote. 3 members of the Hall of Fame publicly named him the only active player with a real chance at breaking Babe Ruth's record. And yet his plaque does not hang in Cooperstown. His name does not appear in a single baseball history textbook. They called him Big Clue. And the reason this story is not more widely known is one of the strangest and most heartbreaking things baseball has ever produced. Theodore Bernard Kluszewski, September 10th, 1924, the son of Polish immigrants. He arrived in Cincinnati in 1948 as a permanent fixture on the Reds roster. He was 23 years old, 6 feet 2 inches tall, and he weighed 225 pounds. His forearms looked like they had been sculpted from something harder than muscle. His biceps measured 15 inches around, and that was the problem. The jerseys of that era were built for the bodies of that era. They were not built for Ted Kluszewski. The sleeves were tight. They pressed against his upper arms, they restricted the rotation of his shoulders, and they quietly interfered with the long arc of his swing. He tried adjusting his approach. It did not work. He tried different arm positions, still wrong. So he picked up a pair of scissors and cut the sleeves off, both of them, clean off. He also chose not to wear an undershirt beneath the open-shouldered jersey, leaving the full geography of his arms exposed to every stadium, every camera, and every pitcher who had to stand 60 feet away and decide where to throw the ball. The Cincinnati Reds management was not pleased. This was not done. This was not how baseball uniforms worked. Kluszewski was straightforward about it. Years later, he explained, they got pretty upset, but it was either that or change his swing, and he was not about to change his swing. The Hall of Fame manager Leo Durocher was once asked by a reporter to name the 5 strongest men in baseball. He listed 4 names. The reporter asked why Kluszewski was not on the list. Durocher's answer has been repeated for decades. Kluszewski? I'm talking about human beings. What began as a practical solution to a clothing problem became the most recognizable visual in baseball. The cut sleeves were not a marketing strategy. They were not a performance. They were a man refusing to let a piece of fabric stand between him and what he was capable of. And without knowing it, he started a revolution, how baseball uniforms were designed for the next 2 decades. The pitcher saw those arms and had to make a decision before the ball even left his hand. That was not an accident. That was Ted Kluszewski. In the spring of 1951, Ted Kluszewski seemed to vanish. Not physically, the problem was his bat. His batting average dropped to 259. His home run total fell to 13. The newspapers began asking questions. The coaches adjusted their approach. Nothing worked. He was only 26 years old, and his career was in genuine danger. The answer did not come from a coach. It came from his wife. Eleanor Kluszewski had been a genuine softball athlete. She understood the mechanics of the swing, the way small errors in posture accumulate into large failures at the plate, and since 1947, she had been filming her husband with a 16mm home movie camera. In the spring of 1951, she suggested they watch the footage together. They sat side by side in their Cincinnati home, projecting the film onto the wall, comparing the powerful and fluid swing of the past against the failing swing of the present. Kluszewski believed the problem was his footwork, that he was stepping too far and losing his balance. But the film told a different story. Frame by frame, they saw it. He was letting his back shoulder pull away from the ball too early before the moment of decision. The power was draining out at the exact instant he needed it most. He corrected it. The following season, he hit 320. What happened in that living room was a pioneering moment in baseball history. Video analysis is now standard practice in every major league organization, and it was first applied by a softball athlete watching home movies with her husband in the dark. Kluszewski understood this. 2 decades later, coaching the Big Red Machine, he told the Cincinnati press he could tell a player what they might be doing wrong, but he found he could convince them far more effectively by showing them the film. Eleanor never received a coaching credential. She never needed one. In 1954, Ted Kluszewski hit 49 home runs. He also struck out 35 times. His 1954 season was the most controlled act of destruction in the history of the National League. He led the league in home runs 49. He led the league in runs batted in 141. His batting average was 326. His slugging percentage was 642. Both numbers remain Cincinnati Reds franchise records more than 7 decades later, and he only struck out 35 times. He walked 78 times that season. He was named to the All-Star team. At the Midsummer Classic in Cleveland, he delivered a run-scoring single in 1 inning, then a 2-run home run in the very next. He lost the Most Valuable Player award to Willie Mays. Mays, in 1954, batted 345, hit 41 home runs, and played center field for a World Series champion with a grace that defied physics. In any other year, Kluszewski wins that award without debate. He ran into one of the greatest individual seasons in baseball history and still finished second. From 1953 through 1956, he averaged 43 home runs and 116 runs batted in. During that same span, Eddie Matthews of the Milwaukee Braves, now in the Hall of Fame, averaged 41 home runs and 109 runs batted in. Duke Snider of the Brooklyn Dodgers, also in the Hall of Fame, averaged 42 home runs and 123 runs batted in. The three men were statistically inseparable. 2 of them have plaques in Cooperstown. And in 1956, the writers at Sport magazine asked 3 of the game's greatest players, Stan Musial, Hank Greenberg, and Duke Snider, to name the one active hitter with a real chance at Babe Ruth's record of 60 home runs. All 3 gave the same answer. Ted Kluszewski. There is a sentence in the SABR baseball biography that describes what happened to Ted Kluszewski in 1956 with a precision that no other phrasing has ever matched. He was 31 years old. He was heading toward his 4th consecutive 40 home run season. The writers had just named him the man most likely to challenge Ruth. And then something went wrong with his back. The full story is not cleanly recorded. His wife Eleanor would say, decades later, that no one ever truly knew how the injury happened. One account describes a clubhouse incident during the 1956 season that aggravated a disc in his spine. On opening day of 1957, Kluszewski made a sudden movement to field a ground ball, and the pain was immediate and absolute. He described it himself years later. He made a quick, sudden movement, and the pain was unbearable. The doctors told him he had a slipped disc. He chose not to have surgery. That decision, whatever the reasoning behind it, effectively ended his time as one of baseball's dominant forces. In 1957, he appeared in only 69 games. He hit 6 home runs. He drove in 21 runs. After 11 seasons in Cincinnati seasons that had produced 251 home runs, 4 All-Star selections, and offensive numbers that compared favorably to any hitter of his generation, the Reds traded him to the Pittsburgh Pirates. They received a veteran first baseman named D. Fondy in return. The trade was logical. It was also a quiet farewell to something irreplaceable. Here is what makes this particular wound cut so deep. At the moment the injury arrived, the baseball world had just finished building the case for what Kluszewski might become. Musial believed in the 60 home run possibility, Greenberg believed it, Snider believed it, and then, in September of 1956, the back flared. He hit 2 home runs and batted 202 in that final month. The season that was supposed to be a launching pad became the last chapter. Roger Maris broke Ruth's record in 1961. He hit 61 home runs. He struck out 67 times that season. In 1955, Ted Kluszewski had hit 47 home runs and struck out only 40 times. The mechanics were there. The discipline was there. The body, ultimately, was not. On August 25, 1959, the Pittsburgh Pirates traded Ted Kluszewski to the Chicago White Sox. He was 34 years old. His back had never fully recovered. His home run totals in Pittsburgh had been 4, then 2. By any reasonable measure, the man with the 15-inch biceps was a relic of the decades earlier, half a name attached to spectacular statistics that no longer reflected what he could actually do. But there is something worth noting about returning home. The town where Kluszewski grew up, where his father worked in the factory, where he played sandlot baseball as a boy, it sat 14 miles from Comiskey Park. Here is where the story becomes unexpectedly funny. That 1959 season was the first time the White Sox had printed players' names on the back of their jerseys. During a road trip to New York, something went wrong in the printing process. The jersey delivered with his name on it had the letters inverted, the characters transposed. The man with the most unpronounceable name in baseball now wore a jersey that made the name look like a misprint. He wore it. Then he went out and played baseball. His numbers in the regular season were modest, but his presence protected the hitters around him, and the White Sox won the American League pennant for the first time since 1919. On October 1st, 1959, at Comiskey Park, Ted Kluszewski stepped to the plate and reminded everyone what had been taken from baseball 3 years earlier when his disc gave out. 2 home runs, 5 runs batted in, White Sox 11, Dodgers nothing. His teammate Billy Pierce remembered it simply, "Oh man, the 2 home runs that Ted hit. That was exciting. There we were in the World Series." The fans were excited, we were excited, everybody was excited. Witnesses said Comiskey Park did not merely cheer, it shook. The second home run, a 2-run blast to the upper deck off a reliever named Chuck Churn, was the last pitch Churn would ever throw in the major leagues. By the time the series ended, the White Sox fell in 6 games. Kluszewski had batted 391, hit 3 home runs, and driven in 10 runs. 10 runs batted in across a 6-game World Series is a record that has never been broken. He was 34 years old, running on borrowed time and pure will. And for 6 games in October, he was the best hitter alive. Have you ever heard of a World Series performance this remarkable that has gone this unrecognized? Share it with someone who loves baseball because this story deserves more light than it usually gets. He retired after 1961. He opened a steakhouse in Cincinnati that eventually grew to 5 locations and lasted 21 years. It was successful and entirely consistent with the man. Hard-working, straightforward, built to last. Then in 1970, Sparky Anderson became the manager of the Cincinnati Reds and asked Kluszewski to serve as the team's hitting coach. What followed is one of the least told second acts in baseball history. The team that Kluszewski coached through the 1970s became known as the Big Red Machine, a lineup so deep and so productive that it stands today as one of the greatest offensive forces the sport has ever assembled. Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Tony Perez, Joe Morgan, these names appeared on the lineup card. But the fingerprints on their swings belonged to a quiet man who had learned everything he knew from watching home movies in a dark Cincinnati living room. Pete Rose, who holds the all-time record for career hits in Major League Baseball, said of his hitting coach after Kluszewski was gone, "There were a lot of coaches who received more attention than Klu, but he did not think anyone had more success. He was just a prince. He never heard a bad word said about him. He was a nice man, a gentle man." In the 1975 World Series, one of the greatest fall classics in history, the decisive run was driven in by Joe Morgan in the 9th inning of Game 7. Afterward, Morgan said that a couple of years earlier, he would have struck out on that pitch. Instead, he had gone the other way, hitting toward the end of the bat. That approach, discipline over aggression, contact over power, was the philosophy Ted Kluszewski had lived his entire career. He passed it, without ceremony, to the man who won the World Series with it. The Reds won again in 1976. In 1988, on the 29th of March, Kluszewski passed away from a heart attack in Cincinnati. He was 63 years old. Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Tony Perez, and Stan Musial attended the service. The Reds wore black armbands for the entire season. 10 years later, the Reds retired his number 18. Eleanor Kluszewski, who had once filmed her husband's swing from the grandstand with a 16mm home movie camera and saved his career in a dark living room, threw out the ceremonial first pitch. She threw it left-handed. There is a bronze statue of Ted Kluszewski outside Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati today. It stands along the Ohio River, arms bare, sleeves gone, mid-swing. Permanent, immovable, exactly as he always was. We began with a paradox, a man who led the National League in home runs and runs batted in, who finished second in most valuable player voting to Willie Mays, whose peak numbers match those of Hall of Famers from his own era, and whose plaque does not exist in Cooperstown. The answer is not a story of failure. It is a story about a disc in a man's spine that gave out at the precise moment the baseball world was deciding he might be the one to challenge Babe Ruth. It is the distance between a career that lasted long enough to be counted and a peak that blazed too briefly to be properly memorialized. But here is what Kluszewski actually left behind. He left the proof that a hitter does not have to choose between power and contact. He left 2 World Series championships, won by players whose swings he had quietly rebuilt. He left Joe Morgan going the other way in the 9th inning of Game 7, in front of thousands of people who had no idea who had taught him to do that. He left a bronze statue along the Ohio River, arms bare, mid-swing. And he left a question that deserves to be asked again and again. What is the Hall of Fame supposed to honor, the longest career or the highest peak? If it is the peak, the numbers make the case on their own. Baseball could never fully contain him. Not the jersey sleeves, not the injury, not the quiet years when his back would not allow him to play. He kept finding a way to matter with the bat, with the film projector, with the coaching voice that shaped champions. If this story is new to you, share it with someone who loves the game. If it reminds you of a player who deserved more than history gave them, tell us in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this one, the next video is already waiting. The giant that baseball could never control. He deserved better, and now you know why.